Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway and welcome to another review. Today I'm looking at some pre-grouping coaches from Bachmann. I love pre-grouping locomotives, and obviously I've got quite a few of them. And so back in 2017, when Bachmann released some large pre-grouping coaches, naturally I was very interested in them. But it's been a lot of years since then, and still I haven't tried those coaches. And you know the reason, it's the same reason as usual with Bachmann. Yep, you're seeing that right. That is £90 each for a Bachmann Birdcage coach, or £89.95 to be exact. Now, if we assume a typical retailer discount of about 15%, we're talking £75 a coach to us, the customers here. That means for a pack of 3 of these coaches, you're going to be paying £225. And I'm sorry to say that I prejudged Bachmann's product here. I thought, looking at some of the poor value I've seen on Bachmann's other models, particularly their rolling stock, I'm not going to do this. I don't think these are going to be worth the money. I'm going to steer clear. Until recently, Hatton's had some of these birdcage coaches brand new come into stock. They must have been supplied by a different retailer because Bachmann don't supply Hatton's for odd and irritating reasons. But either way, this £89.95 RRP was forgotten, and I bought these birdcage coaches for £45 a piece. That's £135 for the pack of 3. While still expensive, I thought this was affordable at the very least, and so I decided to give these a try. But what I'm really interested in is, was I right? Are these actually worth the money, or are they a rip-off as I thought? So I'm going to compare these with a few other top spec coaches on the market. First of all, let's take a look at the Accurascale Mark I coaches, which are £10 cheaper at the retailers. And some of these features include a die-cast chassis, tons of separate detail, full interior layouts and detail, with a full lighting package to illuminate it all. They say they've even got stay-alive capacitors inside. Another example would be the Dapol Top Light coaches. These are even cheaper, £20 cheaper this time at the retailers. These also have a die-cast chassis. They also have detailed interiors, including luggage racks, and these too have working interior lights and tail lights too. So other top spec coaches in the industry, they seem to quite reliably have die-cast chassis, they have full interior detail, and they have lighting. Well, these coaches from Bachmann are more expensive than those, so at the very least I'm expecting to see those features just described, plus at least £10 more worth of additional value. Is that going to transpire? I'm not sure. Let's get started and let's try the Bachmann Birdcage coaches. Right, 3 Bachmann Birdcage coaches, all of them different. Let's get cracking and see what these are like. So we'll start with this one at the bottom, and you can see through the front of the box. This is certainly a beautiful coach. I think regardless of the features these models have, I am probably going to conclude that these are excellent looking, but obviously it will need to be more than excellent looking to be worth all of that money. Let me show you the end of the box then. So this particular coach is 39-600. It is the SECR 60-foot birdcage brake composite lavatory coach in the SECR Dark Lake. And Bachmann have produced these coaches in a number of other liveries. They've got Southern Green, they've got a Beyond Maroon, I think it was. If you're interested in those, I will try and find affiliate links for you. If I can't, do some shopping, you might be able to find some. I believe it is these brakes that gave them their birdcage namesake, and we'll see if it's apparent why when I get these out. But here we go, let's unbox the first coach. And I really haven't handled one of these before, so I'm not sure what the features are. I'm not sure whether they even have lights or other accessories. I really will be finding all of this stuff out for the first time today. I can see though that we've got some accessories, so let's show those. Ah, well, this is great to see. We have a pair of screw-link couplings, which as always is a fantastic option to have. If you want to use these instead of the NEMs, or if you just want the extra detail, a really lovely option. So yeah, that's good, thumbs up. That suggests that these are going to be high-spec coaches. Well, let's see if they are. Let's open up the clam and let's see what the finish is like. Gosh, well, the finish is flat, I would say, but there is a lot of detail up here on the roof, which is interesting. It's a very flat roof. I didn't realise that. Look how flat the roof is. Strange, very strange. I like it though. Okay, let's lift it up. All right. And sure enough, this is a beautiful looking coach. The dark lake livery here is incredible. It's a sort of very dark reddy brown with the yellow lining on it, which looks very, very elegant indeed. And I think this is where the birdcage name came from. These lookouts are supposed to look like bird cages. I guess I'm not really seeing it, but I suppose there are stranger nicknames out there, aren't there? Anyway, underneath, we have no die-cast here. Yep, these are plastic chassis and plastic bogies, but I can see that these wheels have been engineered to pick up. Yeah, they've got insulated axles with plastic spacers, and then the ends of the axles are common together, and presumably there's a contact above the bogie on either side, which carries power into the coach. So yeah, fingers crossed for some lighting. At this price, that's what I expect at the very least. Okay, more on this and the level of detail later on. Let's have a look at the second birdcage coach. We'll go a bit quicker with this one. So, end of the box. Product code this time is 39-610. It is the SECR Birdcage again. This time it's the composite lavatory coach, again in the dark lake livery. So let's pull this out, see what this one is like. And again, I will show you any of the differences later on up close if they are worthy of note. Again, we've got the screw-link couplings in the top, which is great to see. Different roof design, as you might expect, with quite a bit of roof furniture. We'll see whether that's separately fitted later on. Let's lift it up. Yeah, they're not impressive really in terms of their weight. I think a die-cast chassis would have certainly made an improvement to that, but at the same time they're not particularly light or anything, so it doesn't make a huge difference to the quality, but it does beg the question as to why these had to cost £90 at the full price. But yeah, a beautiful coach, certainly no denying that. Let's put that to one side then, and let's have a look at the final coach. Yep, the third and final. Let me show you the end of the box. So this one is 39-620. It is a 60-footer. This time it is the brake third coach in the SECR Dark Lake once again. So let's pull this one out, see if there are any detailed differences on this version. I guess I'll put this at the other end of my train as it's another brake. Same accessories, nothing different about that. Let's lift this up. Yeah, again, different roof furniture, so there is some significant tooling variation across the Bachmann birdcage range. Let's take this one out, and yep, once again, another very beautiful coach. The underframe detail is really quite impressive, also very fragile, so you're going to have to be careful with that. But yeah, very, very beautiful coaches. Let's have a bit of background on these in real life, and then let's take a look at the level of detail and let's decide whether they are actually worth all that money. The SECR Birdcage Coaches got their name, like I say, because of the guards' lookout windows that people thought looked like bird cages apparently. 62 sets of these coaches were built by the SECR between 1912 and 1915, making them relatively modern coaches for the pre-grouping era, hence their large size compared with others, I suppose. These became the standard SECR coaching stock until the grouping of 1923 occurred. They would be modified quite extensively throughout their service lifetimes, but they did survive into Southern ownership and ultimately British Railways ownership following nationalisation, making them suitable for Southern region modelers of many different eras, which I think is quite useful. Okay, so here it is, Bachmann's range of SECR birdcage coaches up close and personal for you. And I think I'm settled on my position on these coaches now, and here it is. These coaches are beautiful. Their level of detail is excellent, as we're going to see, and they are presented incredibly well. However, in terms of features, these are not premium coaches, and therefore they are not £90 coaches. Here's why. The chassis are indeed plastic on these models. The weight is okay, they come in at 141 grams, so I don't have much of a complaint on the weight, but frankly, a die-cast chassis is a higher quality feature, and on a £90 coach, that is what you would expect. Also, there is no lighting on board. I will confirm this when we get them down onto the track and powered, but I'm seeing no LEDs on these coaches. Again, at £90, crazy. The interior detail is very sparse. You've got basic seating without any luggage racks or anything like that, and no detail whatsoever inside the guards compartment. Externally, the level of detail is better, but we've still got no sprung buffers. So I think given the relative simplicity of these coaches in areas, that full price of £90 is a joke. And when you consider what some of those other manufacturers like Dapple and Accurascale are offering for less money than this, that makes Bachmann a joke as well. And frankly, I think it is time for Bachmann to change, because other manufacturers are outperforming them left, right and centre, and there are a lot of manufacturers out there now. There's an awful lot of competition. There's a cost of living crisis going on. People are tightening their belts, so there's less money in this industry knocking around. It seems inevitable that there will be manufacturers that drop off the end because of this, and those manufacturers are going to be the ones that consistently offer less than customers expect for the money, and that is Bachmann in my opinion. So I think they need to start offering value or start thinking about going home, because for £90 these are ridiculous, and at £45 I thought I was getting a massive discount. Turns out once again that's actually what these coaches are worth. But enough about that, let's take a look at the decoration, which is done very well. The finish of the roof is quite flat, I would say, but the bodies are much better. They have a more satin finish, they look great. And the decoration is fantastic as well. There is a lot of lining, so yeah, in terms of visual complexity, you can understand why these should be reasonably costly. Not £90, but 45, yeah, sure. You've got the SECR lettering, you've got the numbers on the doors, running numbers, guard compartment doors, lots of small print which are all done excellently, and some of the coaches have print work on the windows as well to say that these are smoking compartments. All of this is done really, really well. In terms of detail, like I've already mentioned, the underframes are excellent. You've got all of the support structure underneath, pressure tanks, brake rigging and such. All looks very, very good. And the moulding on the bogies is excellent as well. You can tell that this was tooled up reasonably recently because everything does look incredibly crisp. On the ends of the coaches, we've got separately fitted wire grab rails, and where applicable, there are also separately fitted lamp brackets too. So yeah, we have got separately fitted parts here, which is great. Although on some of the ends, some of the wiring and such is just a part of the moulding, which means that even the Hatton's Genesis coaches at £33 a pop actually have more detail and complexity than these do. Here's a look at one of the birdcage ends. The guards compartment itself has separately fitted wire handrails on the outside. That's a very high quality feature. And of course you've got the glazing on the ends of the guards compartments, as well as quite a different end with a variety of separately fitted components, including more wire handrails. The buffer beams look great as well, with the vacuum pipes pre-fitted. Like I say, the buffers are not sprung, but they are made of metal and they do look great. And of course, if you want to, you can fit your screw-link couplings to the buffer beams, although those would interfere with the NEM couplings, so I assume that's why they are not fitted from the factory. The NEM couplings themselves are kinematic and very, very smooth ones, so I can't imagine having any issues with these. Along the bodies, you have separately fitted grab rails besides the doors, and they're quite complex little parts, which is good to see. Up on the top, the wiring and such is just a part of the moulding, although the little vents are all separately fitted. So again, there is a degree of complexity here. The other brake I've got is very similar. It's still third class, except this one does not have the lavatory section in the centre, so a slight variation there. The other coach that I've got is the second class composite with a lavatory as well, and this has a bit of a variation on the interior, and that there's like a smoking lounge in the centre with a little table. The level of detail is still very basic inside, but you do have the seats at least, which are fully defined with their armrests as well. So the interior is not bad by any means, but a little bit more would have been nice. Luggage racks, lighting, just to make these coaches worth the money. As it is, they look quite simple, but even that doesn't matter because there's no lighting. Quite surprising, really. But at the end of the day, they are high quality coaches, I'll give them that. They are well detailed. Externally, they are fantastic, with the exception of the lack of sprung buffers. Again though, if that omission was reflected in the price, that wouldn't be a huge complaint because they are a frivolous feature. So thoroughly mixed reviews from me. Superb looking coaches, but very light on features, which was unexpected given how expensive they are. Anyway, hopefully that's enough of a close look for you. Let's now get these down onto the track. Let's test how free rolling they are. Let's double check that the couplings function, and let's pair them up with a beautiful SECR loco to see what an entire train will look like when it's all together. Right, so here is today's test setup. I've gone for a slightly larger SECR loco because obviously these coaches are quite large. So we've got the Dapol D-Class, hopefully that will be okay with these coaches. The coaches themselves are set up, I haven't coupled them up yet. I'm going to do that on camera just to see how that goes, but Bachmann usually are perfectly okay where mechanism and couplings and such are concerned, so that should be okay. What I do want to do though is just test whether or not these have lights. Like I say, I wasn't able to see any LEDs, but they do have the sort of pickups installed and such. So, full power, do we have lights? On, off, on, off, on, off. No lights. That is so disappointing. I just can't believe that they would charge this £90 for coaches and then not even fit lights into them. I think sometimes Bachmann forgets who it is that pays their wages. I think that is just appalling. I mean, again, coaches without lights, that's absolutely fine, but I don't expect them to be the most expensive coaches I've ever owned by RRP, and these certainly are. Yeah, shockingly poor value for money this time. But performance-wise, they seem okay. I've done the Gordon's Hill rolling test, and each of these coaches was a fantastic runner. You'll be relieved to see. The first one was great. It got down to sort of the first curve at Gordon's Hill, just below it perhaps, and they just got better and better from there. The last one got almost right down to the bottom. So they are good and free rolling, and I could kind of tell that as I was filming the other sections of this video, because it was quite difficult to keep them still, and that's always a pretty good sign that a coach is good and free rolling. But what about the couplings? Let's back up the D-Class and check that these all function. I guess kinematic couplings are a little bit more complex than just bogey mounted couplings, so it is worth checking that they are fully functional. Bring the D-Class in so you can see it. Yeah, beauty that one. Did they all couple up? Yes, they did. And just a cursory glance reveals that, yeah, they all coupled correctly as well. All of the hooks lined up as they should. That's really good to see. Okay, so we have a train together. Let's get started. Let's see how they get on around the track, coupled up. Here we go. Let's go for about 50% speed on the D-Class. There we go. What a grand looking train. Here we go. I have to say, it's a very interesting contrast, isn't it, between the green of the loco and the brown of the coaches. But as you can see, they are handling the track absolutely fine, which is exactly as you'd expect. No issues. They're not even causing the loco to slow down that much on the curves. So that's really great to see. So I have to say, I love these coaches. I think they're a complete rip-off at the full price, and I'm glad that I waited and got them sort of half of the RRP. At the price I paid, they are absolutely worth the money, and the lack of features is kind of reflected in the price. I am gobsmacked by the full price, and of course there are retailers out there that do sell Bachmann stuff at full price, and you know, what a crazy rip-off that is. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? But on the flip side, they do look great. They are premium coaches in the level of detail, at least externally. So I don't have very many major complaints, and if these were priced reasonably, and if they were available for no more than sort of £50 or so, then obviously I wouldn't be as gobsmacked as I am by the price. But yeah, mixed feelings on these. Very impressive. I perhaps expected them to be more so though, given what they cost. Anyway, let's get these over some points. I have a suspicion that this is going to be perfect, because Bachmann stuff is usually rock solid on the track, but it's part of my standard test, so I'm going to test it anyway. Let's open up these points and let's quite gently back all of this stuff over them. Here we go. Kinematics seem to be working well. Very well. Good smooth motion on them. And even the loco, no problems. That's great. It looks as though everything stayed coupled as well. Let's go over them more briskly in the forwards direction. Absolutely rock solid. So performance-wise, cannot fault them. Let's do some ratings then for Bachmann's Birdcage Coaches. I think it feels a little bit harsh giving the level of detail just half marks here because these are so beautifully decorated. The exterior detail, like I say, is wonderful with all of the separately fitted door handles and grab rails and everything. It even has the screw link couplings provided for you to fit if you want to, so there's definitely a lot of good in these models. But the interior details are so disappointing when you consider what the likes of Hatton's, Rapido, Accurascale, Dapol are offering on their rolling stock, all of which is cheaper, by the way. These look quite disappointing with their lack of luggage racks, complete lack of detail in the guards compartments, and just your basic painted seating without anything painted besides those. You've also got a complete lack of any lighting whatsoever. Very, very disappointing. Lack of sprung buffers, that kind of thing. So these add up. It is only half marks on detail for me. Luckily though, the bird cages claw back a few points on performance because they're perfect. They're very free rolling, ultra stable around curves and points. The couplings don't get jammed or stuck or cause derailments. Perfect performance over every test I tried, so 5-star. The quality similarly is very high. The quality of the finish is good. The build quality is high as well, with no visible glue or wonky details, and there are a lot of separate parts on these models, that is true. However, they are quite plasticky. They do lack the die-cast bogies or the chassis, and for that I've knocked off a star on quality because there are models on the way, coaches cheaper than these with more features and die-cast chassis, so I'm reserving the 5-star for those models. The value for money then is tricky because I've got 3 prices to think about. I've got the full price, the RRP at £89.95, which is more like a bad joke than a realistic price, isn't it? Then you've got the typical retailer price of about £75, that's your standard sort of discount. And then there's the price I paid of £45 each, which is massively discounted to an unusual degree. That price I would give 4-star, the typical retailer price of 75 I'd give 2-star, and the full price is just a ridiculous 1-star. So I think most people will be paying around the £60 to £75 mark, depending on what discount the retailers are now offering, now that these models are quite old and not shifting that well. So I've given it 2-star. Yeah, frankly, if Bachmann wanted to charge all of that, they should have provided the features to match. I think the other manufacturers are just completely wiping the floor with Bachmann these days with what they're offering for less money. So I really want to be harsh on Bachmann for this because I think the time for ridiculous prices for standard models is well and truly past for any manufacturer that wants to continue to exist. So that's an overall score of 5.93 out of 10, let down by the lack of detail and of course the silly price. That's a grade of E, the lowest I can give, which does seem harsh given the great performance and the good look of these coaches, but frankly we've seen better and a lot better too. So into the logbook we go. 11th place above the Hornby Laureate Y and below the Rapido Laureate Y, so it's a Laureate sandwich. Not disappointing at the right price. I am perfectly happy £45 a piece, but if I'd paid double that money, I'd be mad as hell. Well folks, that will just about do it for this review. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, I do have very mixed feelings about these because they are incredibly good looking coaches and they work very, very nicely. But the thing is, while I try to give every model I review a fair chance, my reviews are also comparative in that they take into account what else is available in the industry. And frankly, there are much better value models with more features than these out there, and my scores and comments very much reflect that. But what do you think? Have I been unfair? Do you think these are good value? Are there aspects of the model that I haven't considered in my assessment? Or do you agree? Please do let me know, whatever the answer might be. I don't mind, I won't be offended. Do let me know what your thoughts are, that's important too. For now though, thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon for another review. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.